Self-care is more than bubble baths and reading by candlelight. It's also care for our health. It's checkups and appointments to make sure that we are on track with our health and not having issues. What happens when you don't take care of yourself? Today I'm sharing what I literally lost when I ignored my own self-care. Hey friend, do the daily demands of family life leave you exhausted with no time for yourself? Ready to make self-care and healthy boundaries a natural part of your day, all while embracing your roles as a wife and mom? Well, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Christina, married 16 years to a neurodiverse man, mom of 3 neurodiverse kids, and many more roles. Welcome to the Moms in Neurodiverse Families podcast. Get ready to begin your self-care journey. Grab your Sante latte and listen in as we take a small step towards a healthier you. Before we jump in talking about self-care, you may have heard that I will be launching a new planner coming up, which is focused on not only your important life roles, but also your self-care. Check out the show notes for the link for my email newsletter, where I will keep you up to date on the planner, but also tips on how to take care of yourself so you can do your vital roles in your family. Now, let's have a really heart-to-heart, honest chat about what I lost recently because I was ignoring my self-care. So a little background, talking about insurance first. And as soon as I say that word, I'm sure many of you are just like, ugh, it's the worst. If you are a mom of neurodiverse kids, working with insurance is a humongous headache because trying to find providers who will work with your kids and who are in network is a chore. And we had our insurance company change a couple times. Sometimes it was because of the business that my husband worked at, and sometimes because he had changed jobs. I cannot tell you how much frustration I have in trying to find a dentist that will work with my kids and their needs and their challenges, and that's in network. It is incredibly difficult because for most people, most kids who are neurodiverse, their mouth is a very sensitive spot. Brushing teeth is difficult. Finding the right toothpaste can be difficult, and not for all. But in our home, that was definitely the case. There was a time from about 2020 to about 2024 between COVID and then the changes in insurance. I spent so much time just trying to figure out where the kids could be seen, and that was my concern, especially with one of my kids who really struggled in the brushing aspect of their teeth and allowing their teeth to be brushed. So I spent a lot of time in trying to figure out the right place to go, and then we would try it out and it wouldn't work out. And then we finally did find a dentist that was amazing. And of course, our insurance changes. So my focus was on my kids and my spouse, on them being seen by the dentist and working through the insurance, along with all the other medical stuff at the time we were doing. But guess whose appointment was never scheduled for herself? That was me. I was so focused, and rightly so concerned, on one of my kids actually had to undergo anesthesia to have some of their dental things taken care of, which was that's a whole nother episode right there to talk about. I had very legitimate concerns on making sure I could get my kids' teeth needs met and finding the right dentist. Some of the issues I had in finding a provider for my kids was the dental clinic, as I spoke to them on the phone, said that they were well-versed and knew how to work with kids with special needs, and that they have done it often. But when I went in for the appointment, I had techs who, as they were doing the x-ray, would shame my kids when they started expressing resistance because they didn't want to have those rough trays put in their mouths so they can get the x-ray done. Or when the x-ray tech was trying to move them to a different room away from me, and they didn't want to be separated from me. And I was amazed like how they would say they were so well versed in special needs kids, and they were making my kids cry. And I would step in and say, no, this is ending now. So it's very hard to find people who truly were able to work with neurodiverse kids, or they would sometimes as they're doing a cleaning, they would say, "Oh, it's not that bad." And they would begin downplaying the statements my kids were saying. And I would have to clarify, like, wait, you are hurting them right now. And when I found the right dentist, it was night and day. She would take her finger, take the child's finger, and she would let them like feel the instrument, and she would foreshadow what she would do, and she would explain like why she's doing it, and she was so quick. In fact, I was able to get all three of my kids seen by one dentist. Like how much time that took was one appointment for one of them at another dentist. This is how efficient and quick, but she was also very thorough. And when you have the right dentist, because they are focused on what is best for that child's health, they will find different ways to work with that child versus dental offices where they're just trying to get the kid in and out the door because it's a number to them. And they don't like these outliers, these kids who are being honest. Because when you have a neurodiverse kid, they will be very honest. If they have oral sensitivities, they will be very clear in how they feel about it. And I had to make phone calls to dental clinics because sometimes they would not allow the parent to go back with the child during the cleanings because we know what's the best way to work with your child. Oh my goodness, that was a red flag for me. So you can see why it was so hard trying to find a dental office, because not only did I see, does it work with the insurance? Are they actually aware of how to work with special needs kids? Can I go back there with them? It was very time consuming. And sometimes I would take one child at a time and try it out with that child to see if that dentist would work out before I brought the other two. Because especially if your child is very sensitive with their mouth, you don't want them to have negative dental experiences because it is even so much harder to get them to dentists. In fact, it took several years to get one of my children to be able to lay down flat on the dental chair because of the experiences they had had from other dentists who were more focused on getting someone in and out of their chair versus focused on my child's health. Well, fast forward, I finally got in a couple of months ago, and it had been about 2-3 years. I think actually 3+ years I had been in to see a dentist for a cleaning. The good news is that I had done an excellent job taking care of my teeth. There was no like cavities they could see, but I mentioned about one tooth that I was having an issue with. Well, right before COVID, I had a dentist who came out of semi-retirement, and they probably should have stayed retired. And they were filling a spot in for our dentist at the time. And they did a overlay filling for me. However, the quality of work was not good. Unbeknownst to me, that tooth ended up becoming infected and eventually necrotic, which is not good. I mean, it became dead. And I had so many issues with that. I had sinus infections that came from it, and we were treating sinus infections that kept repeatedly coming back. And I am more of a natural person, so I really tried to avoid antibiotics. It was such a confusing of these medical problems I had going on. When that dentist did a scan and says, your tooth, it's dead. In fact, it's impacting your sinuses right now. I was just floored. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I found a dentist who is able to do a very healthy and natural extraction where I will recover easier than some of the more traditional methods. That cost of not taking care of my self-care, like this could have been prevented. If I would have gone in, they would have seen that there was starting to be an infection and I could have gotten it treated and I could have saved that tooth. Now, I recently had that tooth removed, and that was not a fun experience. I don't want to go through again. And I have a very long road to go through to get that tooth replaced. And the reason I'm sharing this, and it's somewhat can be maybe considered embarrassing, but I believe that we can learn from each other. And people can say, well, couldn't you just schedule an appointment? When you have so much that's going on, it seems like the last thing to do, and trying to figure out the insurances and who you can see for providers. And I did try. But by the time I tried to get to myself, we had an issue with one of the kids and their providers. So anyway, also the reality is that I was focusing on other people, and I did not take the time to make sure I got myself taken care of. And I'm living out that natural consequence now. So self-care is, yes, it's taking the downtime we need to refresh our mind. It's working on our mental health. It's growing our mind. It's moving our body. But it's also some of these very basic things, as going in and getting basic checkups done, getting blood work done once a year. Those things are also self-care. Because if something happens to us, what happens to the family? Oftentimes we are an integral and central part of the family. And when we are not functioning, everything else can begin crumbling. And not that it should all rely on us, but again, this podcast is about women who are married to someone who's neurodiverse and they have neurodiverse kids. So that is oftentimes our situation. We have a lot that is on us for the executive functioning skills and working through the insurances and the bills and the groceries and home maintenance. I hope this encourages you. And I want you to think right now, what is one thing that you have been avoiding? Maybe you've written on a to-do list in your planner and you keep moving it forward another week, another month. You keep doing that. And every time you see anything that triggers your memory about it, maybe it's a doctor's appointment, maybe it is a dentist, and you have not gone, this is your chance. Take 5 minutes and make that appointment, schedule it, go online, look to see what's available for providers. Learn from my lesson. I was so focused on everyone else and their health and care, and I do pretty good with my self-care with a lot of areas, and this is the one area I have messed up on. It has taught me a lot. Now, I will say, having that tooth removed, there were some other health issues I had going on. I had no idea that was from that stinking little tooth. Having that removed now, my gosh, it's been quite transformative not to have some of those odd issues that were going on. So if you are having these health, whether you want to call them episodes, weird symptoms, I highly encourage you that this is the way of God speaking to, there is something going on. You need to get this checked out. I hope somehow my mistakes that I have made can help you and bless you so that you don't have to repeat what I have done. Hey, thank you for joining me today. I pray this episode gave you encouragement to take one small step. If so, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help other women find this show. By the way, if you're loving this conversation and want more encouragement like this, join my email list at bit.ly/myselfcare. That is bit.ly/myselfcare. I have a planner launching soon that will help you put all this into action in your own life. I look forward to chatting with you again next week for another episode.